So the astrology of the week of 10 May 2021 through 16 May 2021, it's a time of almost near constant activation of the planets in the sky with the moon's movements. We get this new moon in Taurus, which is square Saturn, which will be have a rough kind of disciplinary edge to it. And then we also have Mercury joining the otherworldly north node and the moon coming through Gemini, where it will have a solar eclipse in June. And then the moon enters Cancer with Mars. So there's not much let up this week in terms of the astrology. And we've got to buckle up because this is the last syzygy, this new moon, before eclipse season. So let's dive into the chart and let's dive into the week. First thing I want to note, as always, is that we've got the aspects this week, the main aspects here. I'm recording this on Monday. I was flattened this week. I was moving apartments and I couldn't get it together to complete my weekly astrology on Sunday. So forgive me. I always like to be on time and available, but I think it works with the aspects this week because there's not a lot of action here until really tonight, where I am in Central Europe, about 8 hours from this moment of recording. Mercury will make that perfect conjunction with the North Node. And it's a climax in a way of this strangeness that can come to our words and the way we frame reality and the way we think about things and analyze things. But the thing is, Mercury's going to spend a lot of time here in Gemini, and the eclipse isn't until about a month from now. So we have some time to explore this, how Mercury and what it likes to do will be affected by this eclipse energy. Remember, the nodes are the eclipse points. So this north node, what's the most important thing about it is that when the sun and moon meet there near the north node, it can eclipse things. When a planet conjoins the eclipse points of the nodes, it does still take on a significant energy of that, but it isn't, the real delivery of the promise of the nodes is this luminary exchange. And so we'll have a lot of time to explore. So I don't think, thinking about here on Monday, you might just look at what's going on with your words, your writing, your thinking, your thoughts, your playfulness, the games, the young people, the youth, the tricksterism, the astrology. Mercury, when you read Vedic Phalans, of all the planets, it's got like a half a page or more of signification. So Mercury has quite a lot of things it can signify. I like to just think about it about, perception, words, language. We say words to attach them to objects in reality, and that itself is a trick. There's the famous painting, "This is not a pipe." I forget the artist's name, and it's a picture of a pipe. So this separation between the language and the reality, the signifier and the signified, I think is at its heart what Mercury is. There's a trick there. There's something missing. And there's a lie, a kind of lie, the great lie of being, that you are something, the isism, the isness of a thing is almost ineffable. So when we try to encapsulate that, that's the kind of lie of Mercury. I think this is what I'm thinking about during a North Node eclipse, is like the maybe climax of some kind of exposure of that lie. And so that's happening here very soon on Monday. Then we have Mercury making a trine to Saturn in Aquarius, Mercury in Gemini. Think about Saturn's role during all of this eclipse season and this week. Saturn does have a trine relationship to these eclipses, and I think it's one of the saving graces of this eclipse season. There's no dynamic hard aspects with Mars or Saturn, actually. Unlike the eclipses happening later in the year, I think these are more about a reformation of idea sets and articulation. I've got this here on my slide. Gemini and Sagittarius are about beliefs. That's the Sagittarius, and about articulation of those beliefs. That's the Gemini. And these are active signs, they're of the day sect, the outward, articulation, the outward expression of belief. What do we do and act on our beliefs? How do we insert the language? This might be making signs and holding them on the highway. These are the kind of things I think Gemini and Sagittarius can be. That's one example. This is a very, very rich, like all zodiacal axi, all axes of zodiac signs, they're very rich. Books, there's this whole book series that a lot of my astrologer friends a couple of years back were writing, a book on each sign. So it's so rich, the symbolism. But anyhow, it's about beliefs and the articulation of beliefs. That's what's in play this eclipse season, and that's what I think is in play here. And it can be supported, it was my point, with Saturn trining from Aquarius, and then you have Mars not making an aspect in Cancer. So it's not as intensely maybe difficult in terms of that martial shock and that martial breakup or that real Saturnian isolation. We actually can use Saturn here to maybe have a structure for the epiphanies that are we're gonna undergo during this upcoming eclipse season. So it's really exciting, actually. Remember, eclipses, beginnings, endings. They're faded, accelerated fadedness. That's my favorite two words that I like to combine for eclipses. So things can accelerate. We step into our power. We step into our fate, into our lives. And Saturn here, when it makes this trine to Mercury on the 12th of May, so that's going to be Wednesday, maybe there's a sense of getting those structures ready to go that can hold you for these moments of fate that are coming over the next month. And then we have here on Friday, the 14th, this is the great celebration that the Jubilee, right, that we're all waiting for. We've been waiting for it for a long time. This has been a very, very hyped transit, and astrologers love to hype transits. We're always looking for that next transit to hype. I do it too. I think it's important to hype transits because we got to have hope. Jupiter signifies hope. So we've been hyping up the Jupiter, the hope transit of the hope planet. Jupiter comes home to Pisces here on Friday. Very exciting. It's going to change the nature of our nativity, of the transiting sky, of the collective energetic. Jupiter has not had this kind of domicile dignity since 2019. Just think about that whole year of 2019. Jupiter was in Sagittarius. And we can look back now, we know through nostalgia that was kind of the end of the old era for our collective, right? We're never going back to that. We're never going back to the old world of free travel. Jupiter can be travel, Sagittarius can be travel, of going up and discovery and the ease of movement amongst populations. That's all now heavily restricted. There's special digital certificates and things and all kinds of special rules for travel now. And I don't really see that going away, to be honest. I don't think we're going to ever go back to the kind of open societies that we've had up in our lifetime. I think it may shift and alter, but it's going to be digitized and heavily kind of monitored and digitized. And, that's a debate, the pros and cons of that. I generally just think that, we can appreciate and honor that power of that last 20-year cycle, and particularly those climactic years, 2019, Jupiter in Sagittarius, very strong in the sky. But now we're here in the new reality, in the new realm, in this new kind of technocratic, digitized control structure. And what can Jupiter and Pisces do now? Jupiter gets strong again. 3 months this summer, and then at the end of December for about 5 months in 2022, and then at the very end of 2022. So I like to think about it this way, this is a water sign, it's a mutable water sign. Water changes the condition and character of things. That's what Jupiter does at its best. It's about hopes and dreams and visions and big ideas and how they can alter everything about us. Remember, one method of reality, I kind of like this, is that the inside changes the outside. If you have epiphanies about what reality is, for example, the outer reality will start forming to those loosened and renewed and new and fresh ideas about what reality even is. That's Jupiter at its best. That's the mutable energy at its best. And I think it's a sense of wearing two hats simultaneously. What if reality is something I'm totally creating? And what does that mean? What if that's not true? What if reality is a fixed structure and like the older texts of religion are true? I mean, we can try on different hats of belief systems and just see how our functionality may increase as a result. So that kind of flow and wearing life like a loose garment, I think, can be very productive for results. I know, was it Steve Jobs or someone was saying, I've read a quote, the only way to really change the world is to think you can. Do you want to change if people that don't believe they can make changes in the world, don't make changes in the world. People that say, I can go out and completely revolutionize something, will and can. So there's a certain sense that we change through this hope, optimism, and vision. That is what Jupiter and Pisces, I think, can bring. The other point I wanted to make here, washing the feet of others in service and love. It's one of my favorite religious myths or symbols, is the idea. You see this in the Christian faith. Jesus washing the feet of the servants. He would go into a place, see the lowest people there, and then start washing their feet. the idea of Nirvana, serve the servants. They've got a song called that. I love this idea for Jupiter and Pisces. The highest, that's Jupiter, the most profound and wealthy. That comes back to support and undergird the lowest amongst us. It's a raising up energy of the low, and we can participate in that. Who are you serving? Who can you serve that you might bristle from normally, or that society tells you, oh, that type of person isn't worthy, or something like that. How can you serve them? Bring the Jupiter to them. So I love this idea of that. The other risk I would just say with Jupiter and Pisces, it's a sea of good feeling, hope, and optimism. Sometimes we can just get lost in that sea. And I love the idea of the warm shower. We just stay in that warm shower and too long, and then the days pass. So with Neptune there was some Twitter tweets about this, Neptune and Jupiter coming together, and the kind of illusions or delusions that might be attached to this strong Jupiter and Pisces period. So anyhow, but overall, I think it's quite auspicious and hopeful. And we see that in the collective world right now. Reopenings, places now, there's heavy restrictive rules, but there's some sense of reopening. We'll see how it goes this summer. But it's the most optimism that I've seen in a long time. I've been in Europe this whole crisis, and now you see headlines like Europe is open to all. Of course, you have to read the fine print. It's not open to all. You have to have certain conditions to get in. But still, those are the headlines. Europe is back open again. It's been a long time coming, and so... let me come back now. I've talked about eclipse season. I've talked about Mercury conjoining. So I've talked about this slide. That's the action and activity of the transiting aspects this week. Let's check out the moon. The moon, it's got its new moon moment. This is happening, let's see, on the 11th. That's Tuesday after the moon enters Gemini. The moon is now in Gemini. It happened very early in this morning, Monday morning. Sorry, the moon is in Taurus, not Gemini. The new moon will be in Taurus on the 11th, on Tuesday. Excuse me. And then the moon will have this new moon in Taurus on Tuesday. Then it goes into Gemini, where it's with the North Node, it's with Mercury, it's with Venus. So all of that wonky eclipse energy that we're moving into very shortly, the moon now gets into that. It's not as intense as it will be, but it's there in that channel and that intensity. And then the moon will move into a Cancer. Let's see, that is on Saturday, and it will conjoin Mars there towards the end of the week. Let's actually get that chart up, because I want to see exactly when the Moon-Mars conjunction hits. There's been this really cool Mars-Moon story in let's see here. Let me just stop this share. So there's been this really cool Mars-Moon story in our transiting sky. Every time the moon has come into Aries, it's made this mutual reception with Mars. And when Mars has been in Cancer, it's been ruled by the moon. So I love Mars-Moon energy. It can be jarring, disjointing, challenging, difficult, but it's a way that a home that it can survive the throttles of life. That's kind of the true home, in a way. It's like home is where the heart is, no matter where you're going. Even if you've got everything you own in a bag on the road, if you're migrants or transitory people, that the home is non-existent. It's been throttled by Mars. There's a sense of an opportunity of what is true nurturing and what is the spiritual nurturance, the spiritual love that can so much be necessary for proper lunar manifestation. Home is just not a building. It's the love that's produced and the love we share. And I think Mars allows us to strip away through its, the shock that it can bring. We grapple with that, but we kind of birth through that, can be this true spiritual sense of home. And of course, that's then what Mars is at its best, where you fight passionately for what you love. That's that spiritual clarity that I think the moon can bring to Mars. So let's just check it out. I want to just grab this transiting chart up here. We'll do a little bit of, I'm trying to do this at least once in my videos to have, while I'm doing these more live style videos, because it's just nice you all can see what me as an astrologer, how I use software, the power of the software. So let me get here with Zoom. Zoom, the screen share on Zoom is a little bit clunky. So here we go. We're here on the weekend. I just want to see so here's the Taurus moon. Then the moon goes into Gemini, and then here it comes in to Cancer. And let's get exactly when that moon Mars perfects. It will be there on, Let's just check out that chart. Sometimes I like, so here it is. This would be on Sunday early in the morning. You know, sometimes I like to let the astrology lead me. You know, I've got my little systems of the things I like to look at every week, but I wasn't even thinking about this exact chart of the Moon-Mars conjunction. I'm just checking it out here. What I love about it is that you have now Jupiter overcoming from Pisces, very strong in its domicile. And this is a thing I want to mention. I mentioned this on Twitter, and a lot of people were excited about it. Cancer gets the overcoming trine from Jupiter. And Jupiter can flood in that earlier position its hopes and dreams and goodness and abundance and its uplift, its big ideas. And I think that can really, that provides great mitigation and great power to this Moon-Mars moment. And in fact, I think this may be one of the last times that the Moon will meet Mars this round in Cancer, which I think, is it exactly the last time? Yeah, they're not going to make another conjunction in Cancer. So that whole bit I was just describing in the Moon-Mars story, that this weekend comes to a head, and it's kind of like a Mother's Day style energy. You know, Cancer is the mother. We just had Mother's Day with the Moon in Aries, and now the Moon comes home to Cancer to be with Mars when it was ruled by Mars on Mother's Day. You know, what do you want to defend with your power? What hill are you willing to die on? That's another thing to think about. You know, it's like, this is a hill I'll die on. I'll fight to the death to defend this because I love it. You see this a lot of times with like freedom fighters and their occupied homelands. You know, they're going to defend their homes. And that's a valid way, I think, to express Mars. Look, I'm totally against violence as a general rule, but sometimes if you're defending your home from excursion, that might be when if it's ever justified, that could be particularly how it's justified. Or you could do strategies of non-resistance that puts you in harm's way. That would be the Mars to defend the home. So anyhow, I'm just meditating a little bit here on Mars Moon. Let's come back to the week here. It's something I'm really interested in. I have a Mars-ruled moon, so maybe that's where that's coming from. The point here is that the week will have a moon that doesn't really get a lot of safety from the intensity. Okay. Now I want to go into the new moon chart. This is going to be Tuesday. Talk a little bit about this chart. Remember, it's the last non-eclipse syzygy, new or full moon in Taurus until 2023. I have been talking about this like it's a preview and an ending. It's a pre-game. Have you ever pre-gaming a party? Have you heard of this? People used to talk about this. You would do some pre-partying and pre-game. You know, you maybe pamper, get your clothes right. I'm not a drinker. I've quit drinking and all drugs for a long time, but when I used to be, you know, I was always pre-partying. You know, part of why I had to quit, by the way, just I was always ingesting, and it's just too much for me. But you know, there's a sense of getting ready for the event, and the big event is the eclipses. You know, transiting nodes come into Gemini, Taurus at the beginning of 2022. The first eclipse is in Taurus in November 2021. This is more of a longer bird's eye point that I'm making here, but the axis, Sagittarius-Taurus, in your natal chart is about to take on the fated acceleratedness of these upgrades in 2022. This new moon is not an eclipse. This new moon in Taurus that we have here on Tuesday. So it's a chance to feel the Taurean without the intensity of the nodes there and kind of get ready, get prepared. You know, it's like if you are trying on clothes that have a purpose, you wear them to see if they fit, see if they're functional, then you go into the game, and then the clothes can serve their purpose to protect you, or the utility or tool that those clothes are going to be. So that's kind of what I mean by pregame. We can feel and try on without having to be in that intensity, the Taurus sector of our charts. This new moon chart, Saturn overcomes from Aquarius via a square. I'm thinking restrictions with pleasure here. Anytime you have a square from Saturn and earlier zodiacal order, it's going to be very Saturnine the moment. Saturn takes primacy. Working for pleasure. Sometimes pleasure is things we have to work for. You know, pleasure doesn't come until there's effort put in over time. Then we can look back and say, wow, that's so pleasing. I earned that. I spent 2 years working very hard, and now I can enjoy that. So sometimes there's a sense of delaying pleasure, delaying gratification, or taking pleasure in the effort and in the Saturn. So I think I can see it going both ways here. The rulers of this new moon, Venus by domicile, it's in Taurus, and then Jupiter by Egyptian term, they're both in the air signs right now. and they're not very close by orb, but it's still a sign-based air trine of the two major rulers of the eclipse. And so this energy, while it's in Taurus, it's kind of being drawn right away into this air trine that we have. And this is the last syzygy that would encapsulate and kind of have a stamp or signature that the syzygies leave us of this air trine before Jupiter leaves the air sign. So I'm thinking about this as a way to use that air energy. Just think about this first 5 months of the year. Remember, air signs, they're Mercury and Saturn, they're the mind, technology, they're dynamically active. It's sort of what I was talking about earlier with Gemini. Air signs are all about articulation and mental energy and vision in the mind. How has your last 5 months been? You know, Jupiter, Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, opportunities, generational opportunities. Now we have this air trine in the sky. Where's your vision at? Maybe take some time during this new moon, do a little bit of mental visioning before we get into the summer and that change with Jupiter and Pisces. And, you know, it's always good to check in. What do I want my life to be? You know, what are the things? And then you can back calculate and then do your actions every day to build that life you want. So that's some of the air trine opportunity of this syzygy, this new moon in Taurus. The fixed stars, I'm going to talking about these as much as possible. There's two fixed stars closely conjoined the new moon, Botian and Rana. Rana is a star in the constellation, the river here, Eridanus. It's this great river constellation. It's associated with Saturn, according to Ptolemy. Most of the stars here in this river, including Rana. And I just want to think about Saturn being productive. It's overcoming the new moon by square from Aquarius, but it's also the energy of this fixed star Rana is Saturn-like. And I think about a river, of how stable it is. Remember, rivers do the same path, make that same path over a long period of time. They actually change the landscape. That's how powerful a river is. So I can see why there's an association with Saturn here. It's the consistent effort over time, plugging away to totally transform something. And that's maybe the pleasure that we'll get later, the pleasure of that transformation that came from the consistent effort. And I think about here also Saturn ruling an earth sign, Capricorn, and how that effort can be productive. Earth is the response to effort, and how things then can grow and emerge from the active Saturn. And you know, earth signs are the earth. It's all the greenery. If you've been near a river, I grew up near a small river. We would always go down. There's just life everywhere. Minnows, fish of all kinds. There's grass growing up. So I think there's this earth-water connection comes from Saturn there ruling Aquarius and Capricorn, but that consistent effort can be very, very highly productive. And that is what I was saying earlier about maybe working for pleasure. I think this fixed star conjunction gives us another angle to that. And then we've got the fixed star Botian, which is in the fleece there of the ram. It's in that hind side of the ram, not quite the tail, but in just the hind back area, the fleece area. And Mars and Cancer will sextile this new moon. And so prizes come with victory. This, if you read about this constellation, the ram, it's associated with the golden fleece. And that myth is in one way, it's rich and there's a lot there, but the Perseus gets challenged by a king and the prize is the golden fleece. And so I think it just fits well with this metaphor I'm constructing of working for pleasure and delayed gratification, and that there's prizes that we can maybe use. Part of that vision I was just talking about, envisioning what's the prize you want to win later in life. And Mars can often be about that competition. You know, sometimes it's really intense, cutthroat. That's a very martial metaphor, cutthroat competition. Some people say life is just a cutthroat competition. But there's prizes, you know, and that's just one way of looking at reality. I'm not someone who likes to only come from reality from this hat of it's just dog eat dog, go out there and win the prize. It's very, very masculinized and kind of right hand energy. You know, I like to use that, but then also the surrender to win. And that's what the eclipse season asks us to do. I was in a reading this week. The phrase, "Thy will not mine be done," or "Thy will be done," became a prayer. And that is what I think is best for eclipse season. You surrender to the ride. Just like Bill Hicks says, that comedian from Houston, life is this great ride. You have to surrender to that, but at the same time, yeah, we can think about it as this competition and then inject ourselves through our efforts. Paradox is the nature of life. Everything's paradox. That's also true in astrology. There's always various sides of how we can come at something. So anyhow, that's my take on fixed star Rana and fixed star Botian being with this new moon. I think it really contextualizes and supports the aspects as they're already present. And there you can see a picture of Perseus and the fleece and the golden fleece there. And I hope I haven't misspoken. I'm pretty sure that is Perseus. I'm just going to check that while we're live. Perseus, golden fleece, just to make sure. I hate to misspeak like that when it's, we live in this age of information. Everything's at our fingertips. We'll see if that search, maybe this internet's a little slow. I'll do it on my phone here. And because I'm going to use my phone to draw cards anyway. So that's the weekly astrology. It's a great week. Get ready for this really shift of Jupiterian energy and enjoy it so much, man. I'm really looking forward to it. And don't sleep on the fact that you have 2 houses ruled by Jupiter in the nativity. So look for that Sagittarius part of the chart as well. Okay, sorry, it's Jason. It's not Perseus, it's Jason with the golden fleece. That's who I was thinking about. So anyhow, I'm glad to make that correction. Jason there with the golden fleece. Okay, let's get the tarot reading. Let's see if we can add some symbols here this week and see what the cards want us to look at. So here, let me get the first card here. Okay, first card. Wonderful. Let me come back to the PPT and drop here in the first card. We have the Two of Wands, or the Two of Clubs. Mars and Aries. This is the first decan in the zodiac. When we start with the Aries point, this is the first decan, Mars and Aries. I've named it Influence. This is it's a card of great power. I mean, one way to look at tarot, you have the Ace or the One, which is the kind of pure form of the element. But the Two card is the first step in that dance or that walk up to number 10, where maybe we're putting that unrefined energy into some kind of tangible physical form. So I love that for defining what Mars is, which is we move into the action. That's in the oldest text. Mars is action. It's and this, I think, can be how we exert influence, right? We act, we build, we act, we have a vision. This idea of vision I was talking about earlier. The fire element can be so important to that. Certainly the air element is. Remember, the 2 elements that are the active day elements are fire and air. What we think about reality, what we assign to reality with our beliefs, then we can feel passion about that, and then they kind of synergize into active movement forward and building. So I think this fits very, very nicely with what we've already discussed, with Mars there in Cancer, maybe being supportive of a prize. What are you working for? And the idea of this delayed gratification of kind of the effort that comes with pleasure. Remember, Mars is exalted in an earth sign. So the notion of Capricorn and Saturn being productive, Mars can also be a very, very productive energy relating to the earth element. I'm going to move here. I think this fits quite well with what we've already discussed. So I'm not going to dwell on it further. Now let's get the second card. Okay, the second card is the Lust. Again, Lust comes up, or Force. This is the great card of La Force, Lust. You see this associated with Leo. And it's the solar energy, using our power again, the fire energy to give a container through which our passion and fire can be controlled, so that we can then best navigate the reality. Uncontrolled fire and passion is very destabilizing. It can come out sideways, and it can really move someone out of the path of where they're trying to go. So this is about contained fire. And I think it fits quite well. Aquarius, where Saturn is opposite Leo. So our fire, this force part of our chart, is being confronted with Saturn right now in the transiting sky. And I think the question really is about what constraints, which are present, which ones are present in your life, and how can we use them to our advantage? sometimes an opposition, like from Saturn. You see it coming head on, you know what the challenge is, and you can say, all right, I'm going to face that challenge. Let it change me so that I can become better, become stronger. This kind of Saturnine control of the fire that's embodied in this card, in the Force card, at the same time being representative of where Saturn is in the sky and where Saturn is squaring this new moon. So maybe this card is telling us that Saturn square the sun in a new moon is what we're really wanting to contemplate. The idea of restrictive, delayed gratification and pleasures. So I'm going to leave it there. That's the tarot reading. That's the weekly astrology. Thank you for being here. As always, you can go to my website, sjanderson144.com/readings, or just not /, just go to the website. I'd love to have you there, or get in touch with me if you are interested in any of my reading services. I love to do that. And have a wonderful week. Enjoy this new moon and enjoy Jupiter in Pisces. I'm not gonna, this whole video could have been celebrating Jupiter in Pisces because it's been so much of a long time coming, but I feel like there's other stuff always happening, and we'll be talking about Jupiter in Pisces a lot. So enjoy, take care.